everybody. Welcome to the Thrillsville podcast. This is our first bumpy, terrible ride of sitting on my grandma's couch in my basement, aka the store. It's not really a basement. It just feels like you're enclosed in a basement all day. So I'm Joe. This is Adam. So we're gonna talk about movies.
Is this a podcast if it's on video?
Video cast. It's two nerds sitting around talking.
What am I watching? Two chimps on a Davenport? That's the name of the. It should be Two Chimps on a Davenport.
I tell you what, you need to see if you haven't. It's Wayne's World. That movie still holds up. It is probably one of the funniest movies ever made. Still.
How do you feel about Wayne's World 2?
I don't like it as much as a lot of people like it. I know Nick loves it more than most things in life.
Yeah.
Just because he likes to say the line about beating to death with his own shoe.
I'm a fan of it. I'll watch Mike Myers be ridiculous. And then I realized to a point because the Love Guru is not good for multiple reasons.
Never seen it.
But yeah, better off.
Thank you.
How do you feel about Austin Powers 3? Gold member. Too far?
No. I think that movie, I think all of those movies are their own movie. And there's the right amount of there's the right amount of re-jokes for each one of those movies. But they're all the same movie, but they're all like, oh, I like them.
I like when people are like, Austin Powers 3 is too stupid. And I'm like, the other ones weren't stupid?
I remember the first time I saw the first Austin Powers at Eastgate 6. I was on a date with a girl that I cannot remember her name, and I only had just met her, and I was crying, laughing so hard, and she kept looking at me, and I was just like, this is hilarious. We didn't date again after that.
Yeah.
But
failed that test.
First movie was just lightning in a bottle. I love that movie. The first one. I couldn't tell you what the other two differences are. I know that Beyonce is in the third one.
Third one, yes. The second one is what's her face? Elvis Costello. Yes.
He has a scene on the.
When is it Burt Bacharach? That the first one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, I think Bacharach may have been in that one as well with Elvis Costello.
Yeah,
because they played together.
Yeah. That's what the last time I watched the third one, I forgot that it starts with the like Hollywood version of it, where like Danny DeVito is Mini-Me.
Oh yeah, that's right. Oh, I forgot all about that.
He flies in and lands, and they don't reveal that it's the fake movie until like they show that it's Tom Cruise. Spoilers for a 20-year-old comedy.
Don't know how many movies we're gonna talk about, but let's see what did we already see this week? We saw Beetlejuice, which was that was this week. And then the week before that was Alien Romulus, I believe.
2 weeks?
2 weeks ago was Alien Romulus. In the meantime, we watched a terrifying movie called Oddity, which was so under the radar. I did not think that it was going to be that scary. And it wasn't actually gory or anything, really. It was just petrifyingly scary. Yeah. Is that even a word?
I'll give it to you.
There was a lot of times that Adam was just like, nope, stop, nope.
Yeah.
It was
I probably wouldn't have hung out with it alone. I probably would have cut it off.
Yeah.
Or I think at one point I mentioned that if I was watching it at home, I would have muted it just to watch what happened and then rewound it.
I'm not going to lie, I would have done the exact same thing. It was the right amount of scary. Because it wasn't scary jump scares because that's so over. But it was like you're just constantly waiting for something to happen, and it just either doesn't, or it's just some weird smash cut to something completely surprising that is just terrifying and haunting.
Did you see their previous movie, Caveat?
I did see that. And I remembered in the middle of this, when we were watching it, it had the little rabbit.
I
don't think that Caveat was as scary. I mean,
I'll say I think Oddity was, well, let's talk about it. I think the thing that got me about Oddity was from the beginning, it had some sort of tension in it that just did not let up. I
This is
don't
true.
know if it would be as effective the second time
no, it
because
wouldn't.
so much of it was just not knowing
Right,
what was going to happen with
right,
the thing.
right.
And then, okay, now what's going to happen with the other thing.
Yes.
I think we said in the first 5 minutes, like, is this movie anything other than like Chekhov guns? Like
Yes.
there were 45 things in the first 10 minutes of that movie where it was like, oh, that's going to come back in the third act.
Yeah.
And some of them came back in the first act.
Yes.
So,
And none of them were predictable at
Yeah.
all. Like I didn't see any of it coming at all. Like I've never seen that movie.
I probably liked Caveat better.
Oh, why is that?
It just felt, I'll say, seeing them in this order, Oddity felt smaller than Caveat. It felt like Caveat did more things. Well, I mean, both of them are essentially, I'm not going to say one set, but they're like one location
Well, okay.
and then like different parts of that. Well, I mean, you could argue there's a bit of a second location in Oddity, but you're there for like 2 minutes. But
Spoiler alert. God.
I
Jeez.
felt like in Caveat, there was just a lot more, just felt like there were a lot more things happening. I think the script was more stupider.
The script was stupider in Caveat
Well, I
or in
think-
Oddity?
My problem with Caveat, I think, is kind of alleviated by the title of the film, because I think by calling it Caveat, they're calling out like, this is the thing that causes this movie to happen. And if he didn't go along with that caveat, there's no reason that movie would happen. But also, that's the one part of the movie where you go, no human would do this.
That's a good point.
But if you grant him that caveat, the rest of that movie is like, it's on point. So I don't know. I think I expected more from Oddity. I think there was a point at which we paused it for something, and I was very surprised that it was down to like 35 minutes left.
I think it's because I had to poop.
I don't think it was.
Oh.
I think it was because you had to pee.
Either way.
But yeah, definitely recommend it. But I would say if you watch it first, definitely check out Caveat,
Yes.
because that is a fantastic movie.
Oh, so do you think that you could watch either of them in any order?
Sure.
I feel like you could watch either one of them first.
They're very similar in tone and aesthetic and all that. I feel like maybe that's what it was, is it felt like Oddity had like one major thing it was focusing on, and Caveat felt like about 4 of those. Now you're making me think I should watch Caveat again, because maybe it was like less effective. Maybe it was a quarter as effective at 4 things instead of that effective at one thing. But either way, both movies are great.
I think I was more aggravated with. Actually, you know what? I was almost at the exact same level of aggravated with the people in the movie in both movies.
When we talk about any movies, the thing that always bothers me is when it feels like the writing is not true to character. Especially when it's something like they just cram in a stupid decision just to move the plot forward. Can't stand it.
Right.
Which is why in Caveat, immediately him agreeing to that, I was like, this might be a rough ride.
Yes.
But then that was the only thing. Everything else, like once it was in motion, like all of his reactions, all of his motivations and everything seemed like a guy in that situation, what he would do. It's just, why did he sign himself up for that?
Right.
But if you get over that, you're good.
I almost didn't even watch it because that was in the trailer. Like, just the beginning of the movie was him doing the thing. And you're like, why would anybody do this? It is a bad idea.
How is that as a tactic, though? Because it's almost like the trailer then like gives you all the stupid up front. So then there's no more stupid things that happen in the movie when you actually watch it. And then you're like, wow, this is better than that trailer implied.
This is very true.
Which is the opposite of the Mad Max movie, Furiosa.
I swear to God, I was literally going to switch right into that because that is the absolute 100% thing.
Because that was the other one we saw.
Worst trailer.
That was the other one we saw this summer that was like right in line with. I feel like this was a good summer for being surprised by sequels that had a real good chance of sucking.
Yes.
Because I feel like Furiosa pulled it off. I feel like Alien Romulus, we could talk about that in a minute, but I like that movie. And then Beetlejuice was kind of the same thing. It's like all three of them were successful for me, but for completely different reasons. I said this to you when we got up from that movie and we're walking to the car. I said, that is Kill Bill Volume 2 for Fury Road. Because it's like all of the action and all the craziness and everything is kind of packed into that first one.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second one doesn't really tell you anything new. It's just fleshing out all that stuff you already knew was there.
Right.
And as a fan of Mad Max, that it was cool. It was cool. And I liked it.
Well, you know my complaints.
That you don't like Thor being anything but Thor.
Oh my God, that wasn't even it. I actually thought that was amazing. I loved that part. I love that they put that weird big fake nose on him.
Uh-huh.
And his character was just like an infant bumbling through trying to be a bad guy, I guess.
He was
trying to be a god.
He was having so much fun in that role.
Yes.
And that felt to me like it was just, it felt like, this is a stupid metaphor, but it's like he had a straitjacket on for Marvel stuff. Like they were like, these are the constraints you have to stay in. And that he was just like, I know what I got to do. This is a popcorn movie. It's got to be a crowd pleaser. It's got to do these things.
Yeah.
And then in Furiosa, they were just like, go nuts. And he was like, can do.
No problem.
He's like, you know that little bit weird I wanted to be in those other 18 movies?
Right.
All that piled up, and here it is at once.
Mm-hmm.
And it just, I mean, it fits. I think that's the thing about, that I always like about Mad Max is that, like in Fury Road, you saw this a lot with like the design of the cars and stuff, where the behind the scenes stuff, they tell you that those special effects guys, some of that stuff was stuff that they had laying around for decades.
Yeah.
And then they were just like, make these cars look cool, do what you want. And they just went nuts. And it looked like the art department went nuts.
Yeah.
In the design for those cars.
Yeah.
So I feel like the Mad Max world gives you, like, it gives people that, I don't know, the pass or whatever you want to say, to just go crazy, just go in those weird artistic ways.
Yeah.
And see if it pays off or not. And there's so many things where I would rather watch somebody try something crazy and fail than just do the safe thing because, oh, I know this will work.
Right.
I feel like there's so much of that in Fury Road.
But
or in Furiosa.
Furiosa, though, I was furious. The grittiness and the rawness of Fury Road doesn't match with Furiosa because Furiosa is very much more, it's clean, and scenes that clearly and easily could have been shot like a normal movie. They chose to not do that, and it just pissed me off because I love Fury Road also. Fury Road has so much, just like what you just said. It's like these guys spent so much time building these cars and building all of this crazy shit, all of these stunt people doing all of these amazing stunts. And I do know that there's CGI in Fury Road, but it just felt more authentic in Fury Road than it did in Furiosa.
This is going to be a real dumb comparison, so strap in for this one.
I can't wait.
It strikes me a little bit like Lord of the Rings versus The Hobbit. Because it's like that same thing. That is not
a dumb analogy. That is a perfect analogy.
Because it's that same thing where it's like the first one, they put everything into it. And then the second one, they're like, tell more of that story, but do it real cheap. Make it in the next 2 years.
Right.
So, I mean, it's, to George Miller's credit, it didn't take 20 years to make Furiosa.
It didn't. It only took 10. Right?
So the next one will come out in 5 years.
I hope there is not another one.
And then 2.5. And then a year.
Isn't he going to be dead soon?
And pretty soon it'll be a TV show. So they'll just drop them all at once.
Yeah, I don't want to watch that. Although I would if it was an HBO.
If it was Marvel, would you?
Fuck.
Because they think you would. That's why they release 85 shows of everything.
I'm so tired of it. I'm so tired of Marvel making a movie every 25 minutes because they can. Because the world, not just like people that like movies, the world will go see the movie.
It doesn't bother me that they're making movies that fast. It bothers me that they don't use a different script.
Yes.
Because
I was about to say, you're the
thing.
one that gets aggravated the most about all of the Marvel movies, which is that all of the Marvel movies are basically exactly the same. Besides that they change out the characters.
Yeah,
It's very formulaic. But it works.
they keep making $1 billion with every one of them.
I don't know if they made $1 billion with all of them.
I mean, you know what's a good example of, we're talking about movies that we watched all summer and totally forgot about Deadpool and Wolverine.
What movie?
Exactly. That movie was exactly what you would expect, nothing more, nothing less.
Yeah, I thought it was great. I laughed a lot, and my face hurt, and it was great.
I didn't dislike it, but I walked out of it going, yeah.
That's what you walk out of every Marvel movie saying.
I mean, I liked the first Deadpool. After we saw the second one, I was like, oh, those were different jokes. But going into this one, I was like, did I see Deadpool 2? I'll remember that I saw this one because it had Wolverine in it.
Yes.
But I mean, I think it's the thing that it was successful about is also the thing that held it back to me, which is that they know exactly who those characters are. We know exactly who those characters are. You can envision what it would be like for the two of them to face off in a movie, and that's what happens. It's good. It's entertaining. It is the thing that it is.
Yeah.
But it just kind of felt like a remix of a bunch of stuff we've seen before, which I would say is my problem with most of the Marvel movies at this point. Is even the stuff I like, I'm like, yeah, this reminds me of the other time I saw it in that other movie.
I wonder also how much they spent on marketing, though, for that fucking movie. Like, that movie was marketed more than I've seen anything in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they were everywhere on every single channel, every interview, they hosted Jimmy Kimmel together, which was insane, but also hilarious. Everything that they did was great and funny, but it was just like, they pumped a lot of they pumped a lot of money into the marketing of that.
Whatever it was,
and I don't know if they really needed to. Do you think that they needed to? Do you think that people would have went and saw it based off of just being like, this is going to be hilarious because it's Ryan Reynolds and it's Deadpool again?
I think that, yes. I think both of those things, they could have basically not advertised it. I think maybe the opening weekend wouldn't have been as huge, and then word of mouth would have been like, no, go see this.
Right.
I mean, I think it was guaranteed to make money from the beginning, but I also really like the fact that they actually chose to do like an old school marketing campaign where it was like you said, like a blitz on all fronts.
Yeah.
And you couldn't get away from it.
Touche. You always bring up the good points. I love it.
Because I missed that
you're not wrong. I remember every time you'd go to buy a bag of chips or a soda, and it has every single character on it, or like whatever that movie is. And this is exactly what was happening with this. Although I didn't get any bags of Doritos that had Deadpool and Wolverine on it. But
no.
Regrettably.
No. I'm trying to think when we were kids.
Back in our day, we had to buy chips that didn't have anybody's faces on them.
But I'm just thinking, like, I remember obviously growing up and seeing like Jurassic Park and being at the right age where I couldn't walk past something Jurassic Park without it taking all of my attention.
Oh, God, yeah.
Perfect age for movies and dinosaurs.
Yeah.
So I remember that being like literally everywhere. And then when Star Wars Episode 1 came out, literally everything had a Jar Jar Binks on it. I remember,
which you can buy at Thrillsville.
Shameless plug number 1.
At Thrillsville. You can get your own Jar Jar Binks for $19.99.
You done?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what else was in that line though, because it felt like Well, I think the first one I remember like completely consuming everything I thought about as a child was Batman 89. Because that was just, there was enough advertisement for that it just felt like it was everywhere. And then that kind of combo shot into a couple years later, Jurassic Park, a couple years, Star Wars stuff. Like it just felt like there were these huge event things. So I did appreciate that with Deadpool and Wolverine that they went that way with it to try to make it feel like an event.
Yeah, that's true. Good point. Again, got them all. He's got all the good points.
So where were we? What other point was I going to make?
Which
Oh,
part
I said the
about
thing about
Wolverine
Lord of
and
the
Deadpool?
Rings, and The Hobbit. The other
Ah,
point I was
geez, we're
going
going
to
all the way
make.
back there. Man, that was far away. Go ahead.
Well, branching off from that same point, I think the like
Branching off of what point?
good CG, bad CG, too much CG in Furiosa and like The Hobbit compared to like the way Fury Road looked.
Mm-hmm.
That the opposite of that is the reason why I liked Romulus so much. Because I think we can sit here and do what the rest of the internet did and like nitpick every part of that plot.
That's so boring.
Because there are reasons to do that. But this is the first movie in, 2 decades
that
actually felt like an Aliens movie that is in this universe. Even though there's been other things that have come out like in universe.
I'll say, I just realized this, is that if they were to release Alien Romulus on VHS, and then you watch them in order, it probably would look perfect.
Yeah.
Because that's the other complaint I have about Romulus, is that even though it is actually a lot less clean than the other turd burgling movies that were Alien movies recently, like this was a little too clean. But it also wasn't, which was good. I don't know. My biggest complaint,
I see what you're saying, because that was because we were talking about the fact that it was going to be practical effects, and at one point when we were talking about it, we mentioned that you very rarely see fog on a set anymore because it's so hard to match with the CG, and that's one of the things. You go back and watch Aliens and The Thing, and so much of the atmosphere in those movies is just like the way in which it doesn't look clean.
Yes,
and some of that is like
everything is sweaty and foggy,
and it's like it's trying to cover up the edges around the stuff where you would notice that it's not perfect, but it just makes it feel very, I don't know, makes it feel very like tangible, like you could tell it's real things, and all that.
Right, like the actors are like actually interacting with the alien because it's literally in front of them.
Yeah.
And it's gross. It's terrifying.
Well, and you actually get that in Romulus. There's a couple of those shots where you actually have that physical feeling where you almost feel bad for the actor that had to be on set with that puppet.
Yeah.
Because you're like, this is a giant menacing thing that is right here in her face.
Or not the puppet at the end, which was a real human. It's, I think, more terrifying that it was a real human.
Yeah.
I was more scared later when I found out that it was a real person. Very much a lot of gross things in the movie as well. Yeah, I did like that though. I liked the stabbing of the Walgina. That was really intense and gross. I almost vomited.
Well, I mean, it's one of those things where when you know that, H.R. Giger is the one that designed a lot of those things, if you toe that line to being there and making that design for that thing, and you go a more subtle direction, you're just not being true to his original design. Because so much of his stuff, like if you go back and look at his books and his other artwork, like a lot of it is disgusting and off-putting.
Oh yeah.
So
none of it looks like giant penises at all. Or
nearly all of it. Yeah. Nearly all of it.
Mostly all of it.
Yeah.
I miss them.
Let's say all of it.
Let's just say all of it. But I think they did it. I think they did it tastefully, though.
So I thought it was very effective. Like I feel like there's like I said, there's plot points that you could quibble with in that movie, but I feel like as an experience, it felt more like watching an old school Alien movie than the things from the last however many years.
I will talk about a specific scene, probably a spoiler, but who cares? Because it's not the end of the movie. It's my favorite part is the middle of the movie when they find the laboratory where they're doing the experiments, and that rat. They see the video of the rat, and it's like, and it dies, and they're like, "Oh, well, the rat died. I guess we'll walk away from this." They didn't bother to watch the rest of the video where the thing came to life and mutated and exploded out of the glass container. Yeah, maybe you should have finished watching the video.
But how long was that footage? Was that
17 and a half hours?
Yeah, was that like
no, they literally
through like a day's worth of footage,
No.
and then they find that 2 minutes?
It showed them walking out of the room whenever it panned back to the screen, and then it started doing that.
Yeah, because why wouldn't you hang out? Why not give that a minute?
I mean, I would have. It's not like I'm in a hurry. Yeah. Although I guess maybe they were. I don't know. I'm not.
They
even,
had, they had reason to be on edge. You can at least give them that.
Yeah, I guess.
So,
was that even before or after though that they found the alien?
It was
the actual full-grown one, or was that just from, or were they just afraid of the facehuggers?
Now we're going to have to talk about how it gets convoluted there in the middle. But
although the scene when they are getting chased by the facehuggers, and then the guy throws the thing, and then they all go, but then they're like, "Nope, we're going to come after you and kill you."
The Jurassic Park moment.
Yeah, it was great.
Where he's like, "Get rid of the flare."
Yeah. Hey.
It's the same brand of flare. It looks like.
Well, yeah,
it's the exact same.
Well, if you look close in the window, you can see Jeff Goldblum like he's looking in, and he's like he's putting his hand on the glass, like. Meh.
That was in the first draft of the script.
Yeah.
The face, it distracts the face huggers, but then the T-Rex comes down the hallway, and they're like, "Why would that be on a space station?" And the guy's like, "Oh yeah, take that out."
Oh man.
But yeah, I would say, there's all those things. Like it kind of reminded me of Jurassic Park 3, which I don't think is a great movie, but it's one of those things where they set up enough of a plot and then get it out of the way to show you a bunch of special effects and pay off a bunch of just like they're being chased by the things.
Yeah. I like in Alien Romulus when the girl started doing gymnastics on those over-under bars.
Kicks that raptor in the face.
And then one girl turns to the alien and goes, "Alan." That's Jurassic Park 3, right?
That's
with the dream sequence.
Yeah.
There was that part 2.
It's 2.
Yeah.
It's 2 because 3 is definitely the one that's
Alan.
Alan.
Dr. Grant.
Alan.
Jurassic Park is frightening in the dark. All the run.
Now you gotta clip this, or we gotta pay for the.
No, we don't.
The royalties.
I made Rebecca listen to that when we got home because I told her, I was like, I didn't even know in Beetlejuice there's a very odd song that Weird Al Yankovic actually covers, and it's a Jurassic Park parody. I had no idea that he was parodying this song, and so even during the movie, I was singing the Weird Al version of it.
Yeah.
So then I made her listen to it when I got home, and then she was like, "This is so dumb," and I was like, "You love it."
I've probably heard that Weird Al version 1,000 times,
and Weird Al,
and the original version twice. So whenever it came on during the movie, the first couple of lines that they played, I thought it was another parody. I was like, "This? How is this? These can't be the real words."
Touché. So that is another point that Rebecca brought up because she said it was because at the end of the movie they play it and it's Donna Summers, and I don't know if I ever got an answer from her if
Mm-mm.
Donna Summer's song is the original one, or is it the other song that I don't know the name of the guy that sings the song and not Weird Al?
That guy is the first one.
Okay.
So I looked it up afterwards. I can't remember his name.
Donnie
But he was the.
Osmond.
I don't think it was Donny Osmond.
No.
Could have been, but I don't think it was.
Donnie Osmond, Donnie.
So you want to talk about Beetlejuice?
Didn't we already do that?
I mean, a little bit, but what did you think of the film? Did you like it?
I liked it enough. I think the drinks helped.
Enough. You seemed like you liked it more than that when we were leaving the theater.
That's true.
Which is interesting because I'll say, after seeing it and then thinking about it, I feel like I have talked myself into liking it less than I did when we were watching it. But when we were watching it, it is just...
It's very entertaining. It's very entertaining Beetlejuice movie.
Much like Romulus and like talking about things that kind of sat on the shelf for 2 decades.
Romulus is a great Beetlejuice movie.
Romulus is as good of a Tim Burton movie as Willy Wonka was. I mean, they're about as close to Beetlejuice as they can be. I felt like Beetlejuice was the first time I had seen a Tim Burton movie in a couple of decades.
I mean, I don't know of another movie he did since Planet of the Apes.
Big Fish had Tim Burton magic in it. It just happened to be dull.
Right.
And then there was, Planet of the Apes, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, both of those Alice movies. Just a series of things. What's the one? Sweeney Todd.
Dark Shadows?
He did Dark Shadows.
That wasn't after Willy Wonka. I mean, Sleepy Hollow is phenomenal. Like, that movie is just, like, on point.
It is.
And Edgar Seal, broken.
It's
That's my favorite part.
I think, there's a lot, actually, I'll say this.
Ricci.
I think a lot of what I like about Sleepy Hollow is it feels very Halloween to me. Like, it just has so many Halloween tropes in it with, like, visible pumpkins and all that other stuff. The fact that this Beetlejuice sequel is set the week of Halloween entertained me so much.
I also like that.
Because I was like, now this is a reason to watch these as like a 1-2 punch the week of Halloween.
I want to say a slight side note of something that's aggravated me since I was alive. Back to the Future is set on October 26th. There is zero anything about Halloween in that movie. We're going to continue now.
We might have to go to the internet.
I really liked in Beetlejuice that it was set during Halloween, and I liked when all the kids were walking around and stuff, and I liked the costumes that they were all wearing, and I liked the it just definitely made it feel more Tim Burton, which was great.
Yeah, I think there's...
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think there's a difference between... I think some people confuse these two things. I think there's a difference between a horror movie and a Halloween movie. Like, a Halloween movie is definitely something that has more of like a funhouse vibe to it.
Yeah. That's why a lot of people and I now also like Trick or Treat. Even though I don't really like that movie. But because it's Halloween movie, it makes me want to watch Halloween movie.
Trick or Treat, it feels like it's trying to... I feel like it's not effective at what it's trying to do. And what it's trying to do is be like an entrance ramp to horror movies for kids that have seen a lot of Halloween stuff. But I feel like if you are, 12 to 13, which is what they're probably aiming that movie for, there's a few things that are over the line that you're like, nah, this is a little bit too R-rated.
There was a family in here the other week, and the little girl was running around, and she kept pointing at the different trick-or-treat Sams. She goes, "Oh, it's Sam. Oh, it's Sam." And I was like, I told the mom, I was like, "Oh, that's pretty cool." And she goes, she has no idea what that is, but she had to have the Sam trick-or-treat pajamas, and that's the only thing she knows of it. And I was like, I guess it's adorable.
smiling pumpkin head and he's carrying a sucker. There's
Yes,
nothing.
that's. I
nothing
think
weird
that's
about
what
that.
she said.
Until you've seen the movie, he's not traumatizing.
True.
So
Good point. Yeah, it's just
Yeah,
a
not-
small human with a sack over its head.
yeah, I mean, if you've ever seen Trick or Treat and you have a child and you're thinking about showing it to them, definitely rewatch it before you put it in front of your child, because it is more intense than you remember it being. There's a lot of stuff you remember that's not intense, and that stuff is still in there, but it goes there a couple of times where you're like, maybe my 10-year-old shouldn't be seeing this.
Yeah, Nick.
Now his next film, Krampus.
Also, I was going to bring that up. Is that is also a gateway horror
Horror
movie
movie.
for children.
Krampus is,
I love that movie.
it's insanely what it is, if that makes any sense at all.
Commits to the bit.
Yeah.
That movie could have been a Tim Burton movie, and I would have been like,
I like what I like about it, though, is the way that it doesn't go overboard at the beginning. It definitely feels like a companion piece to like Christmas Vacation, because it's right in that same zone until it isn't. And then you're like, this is turning into like an actual horror movie.
Yeah.
And then by the time you get to like the gate to hell opening up, you're like, this like fully delivered on all these crazy things I wanted it to show. And it's like,
Fun fact,
It's
they made the entire street with the houses inside of an airplane hangar. So the whole scene with the snow and the truck outside, and when they're going down the street, that's all inside of a giant airplane hangar.
why wouldn't you just make that look shitty on a computer? Why put effort and time into
But
things?
also, it's funny that you brought that up about Christmas Vacation, because their house looks very much like the house from Christmas Vacation.
Yep.
Like the whole neighborhood.
Yeah.
So interesting.
Yeah. It's I enjoy
I guess
that
it's
movie.
not that interesting, but like
I enjoy that movie.
I do enjoy that movie. I didn't like it the first time I saw it because I was mad that it wasn't rated R, because there was no blood and there was no cussing or guts, and I was like, man, you know what this movie could use?
And then you're like, oh, this movie didn't go there. And then you watch it the second time and you watch that Jack in the Box thing eat that child.
Yeah.
And you're like, why didn't I remember that this is horrifying?
Yeah, but I also don't have children, so it didn't really bother me that much.
Yeah, but also there's that part of you that kind of wants everything to be dead alive again.
Well,
So
yeah, duh. Yeah,
you're like, I didn't see
way.
one gratuitous bucket of fake blood.
There's a
tossed
way
on
that
the
we could
actors.
hybrid those two movies, just cutscenes into.
Give it 25 minutes and AI will be able to do it.
That's good. It's true. Good point.
Make a sequel to Dead or Alive. Yeah, so Beetlejuice. I think, I don't know how much work the makeup is doing in that movie, but Michael Keaton did not feel 35 years older than the original Beetlejuice.
No, he did not.
He seemed just as spry.
Yes.
And it just felt like more Beetlejuice movie.
Mm-hmm.
And it was weird the way, you could tell he's aged. There's a little more wrinkles under the paint, but the way in which it felt like Beetlejuice had not progressed while everyone else had gotten older was great. Like, he still has the same sense of humor, still has the same,
stalker mentality after
because they imply that he's like 600 years old. So
I think so.
With that, it's like, okay, so it's been 35 years for him. So to him, it's been like, another couple weeks basically, compared to how long he's been alive. And here they've all aged and like they're going through all this stuff and whatever else. I appreciated that, unlike some of the later Ghostbusters stuff and all that it didn't feel like the plot to get Jenna Ortega in the movie was like shoehorned in. And it didn't feel like they had to make it half of the movie to appease the people that came to see her. It just felt like she was a character in the movie.
Yeah.
You could argue that her plot didn't affect the overall plot very much. There's like 85 plots in that movie that could have been cut out.
Way too many plots in that movie.
But it doesn't matter, because while those plots are happening, you're watching a Beetlejuice movie that looks and feels like a Beetlejuice movie.
I was upset that what's their name's husband was, or fiance or whatever. I'm like, why was she even with that guy in the first place? She didn't like him at all.
Oh, Rory from what is that? Justin Theroux.
Yes, I know him as Leslie Knope's boyfriend in 1 or 2 episodes of Parks and Rec.
I know him from Wanderlust, where
Oh.
he is a
Oh, that's
hippie
right.
cult leader.
I forgot about that. Yeah, he's been in a lot of things.
Yeah, but yeah, I'll say there were a bunch of those characters that didn't need fully fleshed out character arcs or plots, but it didn't matter. I mean, you could argue that it was too long in a couple of spots, but at the same time, it was totally fine. Like the humor actually landed for most of it. There were a lot of just little entertaining things that were in there that actually paid off, and like it felt like watching an 80s movie where there's a reason why they did a lot of the things that they did.
Mm-hmm.
So just stupid little jokes and whatever else, and just all the little details.
And the puppets were all really good.
Yeah.
I liked all the puppets.
I thought it was an appropriate amount of sandworms, if that makes sense.
It was claymation, which was amazing.
Yeah, but you don't want no sandworms. You want to see them again. You don't want them to be CG. Right. And you don't want them to suddenly be like 30 minutes of the plot.
Right.
Because they're literally just there as background decoration in the first one.
I was really hoping that Timothy Chalamet would come out and get on one of them and start riding it around.
I was not sitting next to you.
Segue into Dune. Sorry, what?
I was not sitting next to you. I was a couple seats over. But I wanted to tap you whenever they were doing the flyby at the beginning. Because over in the barn, you could see a little horse, and it was kind of moving like this.
Come on.
Like, is that a tiny horse on purpose?
There he is, my tiny horse.
Uh-huh.
He's extra tiny today, but they're taking him away.
Got to get clearance for that now, too.
Tiny horse.
So I think, what did we talk about? So Oddity, go see it. Furiosa, go see it.
Yep.
Or digital at this point.
Digitally see it.
Digitally see Oddity. Put both of those in your eye holes.
Well, okay, to slightly jump to when you said about Furiosa.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, everybody, if you didn't get to see it in the Dolby Cinema, because that's what made it so amazing.
Yeah.
It was incredible and so loud, and I was smiling the whole time. And then we watched it at home, and I was like,
I prefer the Dolby Cinema because it's got the nicer seats in it.
And they shake.
So we should go to that one anyway, but it definitely made a difference for Furiosa. But I'll say the bigger one that we didn't talk about from this year that we don't have to get all the way into was Dune 2.
Didn't you want to talk about that?
Dune it again. But yeah, I mean the sandworm riding scene in that movie was a visceral experience in that theater more than like visual.
Yeah.
And actually held up at home too. Like the way
I mean I watched Dune at home. It's great. Yeah, it's great. Oh God, that Dune.
Yeah. I mean, and that's another thing.
I like that Dune.
Another thing talking about practical effects, right? Because like you look at that and you're like, oh my God, how did they pull that off? It feels like there's just sand blowing right at the camera. And you see the behind the scenes, and they've got like a leaf blower blowing sand at the camera.
Sand blowing at the camera.
Yeah.
And a real worm.
I think he does that a lot with all of his movies, though, where you get all of those like in-world atmospheric things.
Timothy Chalamet?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm not going to butcher his name. Denis Villeneuve. Yeah.
That's what I was going to say.
It was right on the tip of your tongue. I could read it, actually. That's how I knew it. But we were talking about it whenever we rewatched the first Dune of just that ship comes in and lands and how long they just showed the shot of the mechanics of the way the foot actually settles. And it's just like, okay, so somebody actually thought about the weight of this thing and designing this as like a real vehicle. So
it's very pretty.
It doesn't feel fake. And then I feel like that's how you get to those scenes like that sandworm scene where it doesn't feel like a bunch of CG and it definitely feels like spectacle, but it doesn't feel like they're overly impressed with it. They're just like, well, what would this be like? And then they film that.
Right.
And it's just the simplicity of that of, well, if you were doing this, it would be loud as hell and it would be sand everywhere and you'd barely know what was happening.
So, to recap what we talked about tonight on the couch.
Chronologically from the beginning of the year. Dune 2, see it. Furiosa, see it. Wolverine and Deadpool,
Mm-hmm.
see it if you liked the other ones.
Yep.
It's more of the same. Alien Romulus, see it if you like aliens. If you're going to nitpick it, don't bother. Beetlejuice. If you like Beetlejuice, go see it. I feel like you should definitely watch the first Beetlejuice before the second one if you're going to see it. So watch the first one. Find out if you like it before you go see the second one. What else? What did I miss?
Oddities.
Oddity. That's right. Go see Oddity or watch it at home
And Caveat.
and watch Caveat.
Yeah. That's caveat to that. You should
Yeah.
watch it.
Yeah.
We'll see you next time, probably. Or you'll see us. But if you don't, you could come in to the store, Thrillsville, in Edwardsville, Illinois. You can look around and not buy anything and talk to me for 25 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Or you could buy a bunch of stuff and I would be really happy. So
You can debate all these points and more about these movies.
That's right. But Adam won't be here. Neither will Byron.
Occasionally
But
on
I'll do my
Saturdays.
best to battle with you in a positive way.